You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Thanks for joining me here today. We are getting started with the first house call of the weekend, where I am committed to trying to get through 10 questions today. I want to be able to answer more of our community's questions each and every weekend, so I'm going to step up my answering ability and try to get you clear, concise answers that has the information you need while trying to be able to serve as many people as possible. I'm looking forward to that. We'll be going through all sorts of questions. I haven't looked at them yet, but we'll get into them in just a moment. Going over all things wellness, weight loss, anti-aging, digestion, hormones, mindset, health coaching careers, you name it, we'll go over it. Always looking forward to doing more and more of these. Truly enjoy them. And that's why the Cabral Concept has a different theme every day. And a lot of people say, like, well, how are you doing this many podcasts? The reason is that these are all interests of mine. I love being able to answer people's questions. I'm not able to get on email and direct messages and Facebook every day and answer all of those questions, but I know what I can do is I can sit down each and every weekend and do my best to answer 15 to 20 questions and give them the due I believe that they deserve. So I'm looking forward to that. We have our Motivation Mindset Mondays, our Total Wellness Tuesdays, Wellness Weight Loss Wednesdays, Training or Toxic Thursdays. We have our Friday Review, which I go over all sorts of research, my favorite products, what's been going on in the practice. And then on the weekends, we land here answering our community's questions. So without further ado, let's get right into the first question. Today is episode 1289. If you want to follow along with the questions, head on over to stephencabral.com/1289. All right. The first question is from Karyn. Hello. After receiving my OAT results earlier this year, I have commenced the CBO Protocol. Okay. So let's translate for everybody who doesn't know what that is. The OAT lab is the organic acids lab, and the CBO Protocol is our candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol for getting rid of candida and bacterial overgrowth in the gut. All is going well, and I'm into my 6th week. However, I've noticed that my asthma has become particularly bad during this time, and I'm having to take my cortico-steriod inhaler almost every second day. I believe inhaling my cortico-steriod contributed to the overgrowth of candida in the first place. Will the CBO work if I'm still taking this medication, and why do you think the CBO protocol has affected my asthma? I developed asthma 6 years ago when I moved to another city in subtropical Australia and getting cats for pets. I found out I was allergic to cats and found a new home for them last year. Is there something I'm missing if I remove the allergy from my life, but I'm still getting asthma flare-ups on the CBO? Should I cease the protocol until I've gotten my asthma under control? Thank you for your advice in advance. Your podcasts have changed my life for the better, and I love learning every day from you. Thank you, Karyn. I appreciate that. You wrote in on June 18th, so 6/18. It says here, I'm recording this right around the 18th, so we're recording this and it will be published on the 17th, actually. So what are we looking at, about 8 weeks ago or so, August 18th? Yes. So now, 8 weeks ago, you would already be finished now with your CBO protocol. Remember, whenever you need time-sensitive advice, where you need your question answered within 24 to 48 hours, ask away at cabralsupportgroup.com. That's our free Facebook group, where we answer questions with our health coaches there. And then also do feel free to ask questions at support@equilibriumnutrition.com as well. So had I gotten to this in time, then I would say I don't know if it's seasonal based. Many people's asthma kicks up during the winter-based months. Our summer is your winter. You would have been just moving into winter or so in Australia. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I don't know if you were sensitive to one of the particular herbs in the CBO protocol, such as an oregano or pau d'arco. I don't know if it was potential die-off from that, and we would have had you actually just cut back on the amount of capsules you're using. and then slowly titrate back up. So there's always a way, for sure. I mean, you were getting the results. You were looking good 6 weeks in. You had 6 more weeks to go. I hope that you found your answer. Thank you, Karyn, for writing in. Anne writes in next, I just read The Longevity Diet by Walter Longo, and he shares similar views to yours on diet and longevity. One difference I see is that he recommends a 5-day fast and that autophagy begins on day 3. I've also read other articles that say autophagy begins after day 3. Curious on your thoughts as to why recommend adding food on day 3 of your detox and how the method compares to fasting mimicking diet he recommends. Just a note that I have AFib and doing everything I can to avoid chemicals or ablation. I've completely changed my diet to vegan plant-based, take supplements. So far, went from 3 to 4 incidents a week to 1 a week. I thought fasting or detox might take it to the next level. Thank you for all you do. Your podcasts have been educational. And thank you very much for writing in. We actually don't differ too much, I don't think, in our thoughts on fasting. So if you look at my podcast on fasting, what I recommend is a 1 day a week, so 24 hours once a week, 12 hours every single day, 24 hours like a Sunday night to a Monday night. You can have a full day of eating on Sunday. Then after dinner, don't eat until dinner on Monday night. That's a 24-hour. Autophagy actually begins after 18 hours. The difference, I think, and the confusion sometimes comes in, most people get into ketosis in about 3 days. You could get into ketosis faster, which may help increase autophagy, but not always. Autophagy could increase by the actual breaking down of additional adipose tissue. But let me get back to what I was saying. So I don't think we differ there, except autophagy actually does begin at 18 hours, and that's one of the reasons why the Nobel Prize in medicine occurred then. Now, would it vary for each person? Absolutely. Of course, autophagy will vary for each person. And please also keep in mind, autophagy is taking place at a different level all the time in our body. So it's not that autophagy only takes place at this time. It just takes place to a greater degree the longer time there is without more food basically coming in. So, okay, what do I recommend? Well, I mean, in an ideal world, I've given this before, I recommend a 12-hour fast every day. Might be a little bit longer. A 24-hour fast once a week. I recommend every 12 weeks a basically hour, 2.5 to 3 day fast, liquid fast with the Equilibrium 7-day detox, and then once a year a 5 to 7 day detox. Now, most people will never be able to do that 5 to 7 day fast because it's a big challenge, right? It's a big challenge. It's more mental than anything else, and I want people to work up to it. I've done a week-long fast before. It's not for everyone. It was very difficult, and you can work up to it. So I don't think necessarily we disagree, but keep in mind, I work with, like, over the course of a year, the amount of people that we reach would be in the millions. So I'm trying to serve my greatest good, and that's to help the greatest amount of people in the world. If I were to tell people to do a 5-day fast, I mean, how many people realistically would do that? Very, very, very few. So we follow everything. People are doing it perfectly within our community, but they may never get to that 5 to 7 day fast. And honestly, that's okay. Look, I mean, yourself, you're living proof. You're doing so amazing. And you went from 3 to 4 incidents a week down to 1. Keep up the great work. Katie is up next. Hi, Dr. Bob. I've been listening to your podcast and loving them. Regarding blood sugar, and know you are in agreement with other functional medicine docs regarding fasting blood sugar in the range between 75 and 95. My blood sugar has been a bit high in the AM. I've implemented your adrenal soothe and added carbs, and I'm now in the 80s. So it seems to have been an adrenal issue. Anyway, now I'm wondering how my after meal blood sugar is looking. I know you would like to see the fasting range 2 hours after, but what about an hour? I've recently read an article written by someone I respect that the goal is not to have your blood sugar spike above 125, but is that possible with carbs? When I have a cheat meal, I find that it goes into the 160s, and often it doesn't come down to ideal range after 2 hours. This is the main reason I stayed away from carbs, and your organic acid test showed that I've done too much of this. The only other issue revealed was candida overgrowth, and I've not started the protocol yet. I'd love you to weigh in. I'm a Vata type all the way, if that helps. Okay, so I don't think there's a magic number. I don't think 125 is the magic number 1 hour after a meal. I believe somewhere around the 150, 160 is going to be fine for most people. What does matter is the 90 minutes, 2 hours later after your meal that it's brought back down below 100. So what we're looking to do is create as much of a level blood sugar throughout the day. But keep in mind that we need carbohydrates because carbohydrates do fuel our brain, they fuel our muscles, they fuel our nervous system, they replenish liver glycogen, they help to produce more serotonin. So can you live on a low-carb diet? Absolutely. You certainly can. I'm not saying you can't. But can you live an ideal life on a low-carb diet? Not for the long term. If you look at the longest lived people, they did have carbs in their diet, and the majority of their diet was carbohydrates. Now, of course, they weren't blood sugar spiking processed carbs. I don't recommend that at all. And you can see why maybe a cheat meal, it might be longer to come down. What I'm talking about, when I say carbohydrates, what am I talking about? Sweet potatoes, yams, yuca, parsnips, celery, carrots. Those are some of your root vegetables, right? Beets. And then, of course, most people say no big deal with your radishes and your lettuce and your kale and your broccoli, your cauliflower. Nobody makes a big deal about that. If they do, then there's a real issue there. And then we're talking about fruit. And if you don't do well with grapes or bananas or watermelon, okay, well, we don't have to have those. Some people do totally fine with them though, right? Some people totally fine, especially after a workout when you've used up a lot of glycogen. So what do? Well, you stick with anything that ends in berry, right? And if it ends in berry, you're pretty much golden, and that's not going to spike your blood sugar for the most part too. So with a little bit of give and take, a little bit of play, a little bit of trial and error, you're going to know exactly what works well for your body. But keep in mind, what works well for your body right now may change in 6 months to a year as you get healthier. Now, remember, if you can't eat carbohydrates, it's not really the carbohydrates' fault. It's your cell and your body's ability to metabolize glucose. When people say they get sharp spikes in blood sugar, don't blame the carbohydrates. Blame the chemistry in the body. We need to work on rebalancing that. That is very, very important, and that is what a lot of people overlook. All right, great question. Thank you. Carrie is up next. I've been binge eating for about 10 years now, on and off. I feel like I'm so bored in life and constantly need to be doing. This binge eating is the only thing that calms me down. I've seen many natural health practitioners about this, but the binge eating is still there. Do you have any suggestions? Thank you, Carrie, for writing in. I would say at least once a month we talk about binge eating and eating-based disorders on the Cabral HouseCalls. So please do feel free to type in eating disorder or binge at stephencabral.com/podcast, and you'll find all the previous shows. Okay, I'd love to be able to help you with this, and I think I can see where we are potentially going wrong. So what we're looking at is not the food itself. We're using the food, as in many, eating-based disorders, as something to fill a void, right? Or something to pacify a previous trauma or a way of thinking or a place that you're at in life. It seems right now that you are, and again, forgive me if I am off base on this, but it seems like you're a little lost, that you don't have your purpose, that you haven't found your path. And because of that, you wake up every day without that driving purpose, without that passion to do and create. So because of that, you are bored. And because of that, you need to fill that boredom. Some people use drugs, some people alcohol, some people overwork, and some people turn to food. Everyone has their own thing, and there are many, of course, other vices as well. What we need to do is look at where your purpose lies. What is your highest good? How can you begin to serve others beyond yourself? Look beyond yourself. A lot of times that's the best thing to do. And I'm not saying that you're not, you're being selfish at all. I'm not saying that. But when you begin to look outside of you, you're focused less on you, and then you start to not even have those thoughts about the binge eating or other things as well. So I hope that gets you started, and many, many more topics on this on our Motivation and Mindset Mondays. Thank you for writing in, Carrie. Anonymous is up next. I have a question about bloating, bad gas, and perirectal dermatitis that started after CBO and started with the heavy metal detox. I performed an organic acids test, HTMA, food sensitivities before starting the protocols. I was told overall things are looking good. I did the CBO followed by the heavy metal detox. Started having extreme flatulence and bloating that would result in perirectal dermatitis. I quit the heavy metal hoping that the cause would stop. I even occasionally would have leakage. I figured it was only a possible option left was a parasite, so I started the parasite protocol. I've done the intestinal cleanse and several DCD. As you can imagine, I'm worried about this and looking for help. I'm simply looking at different philosophies I would occasionally get some gas before, but never to this extent. All right, well, let's help you work through this. I mean, even though there are always rare cases like this, there's rare cases with everything, and I'm happy to help with that for sure. So here's what we want to look at. We always want to look at variables. So we say, did the bloating and gas start when you were on the CBO protocol? Did it exist when you were on the CBO protocol? It seems to have happened afterwards. So what I'm looking at it is, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, please feel free to write into my team if I'm wrong, and we'll do follow-up. I mean, we're here to help people. That's the bottom line. So it seems like when you did the CBO protocol with the citricidal drops, it was okay. When you finished the CBO protocol and moved on to the heavy metal detox, that is when things started. So now let's look at those variables. One is when you finish the CBO protocol, you're allowed to add in more foods. I ask, when you add in more foods, did that then begin to cause the bloating and gas? Sometimes then people add in onions or they add in a larger amount of beans and it just doesn't work for them. So I would look at what you're reactive to. You don't have to complete the CBO protocol again. What I'm asking you to do is just do the diet plan of those first 3 weeks, the elimination diet plan on that sensitive gut guide. See if then the bloating and gas goes right away, because it very well may. It simply may be a undigestibility or poor digestion with certain foods. Let's check that out and then let's slowly add in one food at a time. Okay. Now, could it be the heavy metal detox? It's always possible. Again, I haven't heard this before, but it's always possible. And again, I'm here to help. What does the heavy metal detox contain? It contains cracked cell chlorella. So it might be a food sensitivity to chlorella, which is an algae. Maybe that's what caused some of the dermatitis. Now, again, when you stop the protocol and you're not using that particular algae, it should go away. Are you sensitive to cilantro? There is natural cilantro and extract in that protocol. The last part would be the vitamin C. This could simply be too high a level of vitamin C. Vitamin C can cause gas, bloating, and flatulence or even loose stool at a higher dosage. How do you know if it's too high a dosage for you? When you meet bowel tolerance. That's how you know if you're taking in too much magnesium or too much vitamin C. It actually causes loose stool. When you get to that level, you draw back. If it's causing you any type of gastric upset, then you'll stop the vitamin C and you'll simply do the smallest dose that works for you. Remember, everything is figure-outable. I think I just made that word up, but I like it. Everything is figure-outable. You can do this. All you need to do is work the variables. And you don't kind of want to throw that baby out with the bathwater, right? You want to figure out what's the variable, what am I missing here, what did I add in that's new? Control your variables, go back to the point where everything was okay before, and then start to add those things back in. You'll be able to figure this out, no doubt about it. Do feel free to ask my team with questions. Okay, Mag Ali is up next. Magali, Magali. Hello, Dr. Paul. I'm pregnant with my third child right now and considering tube ligation as a form of permanent contraception. I've been on the pill for a very long time, and after listening to your podcast, no longer feel it is the healthiest thing for me to do. Side note, since I did decide to come off the pill, I became pregnant as a result. I want to know what your viewpoint is and how it might affect or change my overall health, as well as any better suggestions as a form of contraceptive. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge with us. Okay, happy to give you my opinion on this. I've done many shows on the best form of contraceptives, the safest form, all of those things. So do feel free to go back and just search at stephencabral.com/podcast. You can see how you can try to time it with the female cycle, what type of contraceptives you can use. But let's talk about the question today, which is tubal ligation, also sometimes referred to as tube tying or tying of your tubes. So the question is this: is it healthy or not healthy to do that? Well, whenever you change part of your body, I can't say it's the healthiest thing to do because you're changing what nature gave you. But of course, I understand where you're coming from and you do not want to get pregnant. You don't want to have another child. I get that. I understand that. And there's nothing wrong with that. So what we have to do is look at all possible options. And I want you to know that for the most part, tubal ligation doesn't have a lot of complications in terms of it's usually a very small incision. There can be some side effects with infection. There can be side effects with some internal bleeding from the procedure. Side effects always whenever you go under anesthesia, if you're doing anesthesia. So you want to look at that. You'll want to potentially do a detox after that surgery. Wait a little bit for your body to get strong again. You can also, if it's not done properly, if there's not a complete closing of a fallopian tube, you can still get pregnant. So that's really important to look at that. You have to just make sure that obviously it's done correctly. And then, there's always a chance, of course, of some type of ectopic pregnancy. So, that's how we look at it. I mean, the research is really mixed. I haven't seen anything conclusive that it can cause any type of an autoimmune-based issue. We see a little bit of that with vasectomies in men. I did a podcast on it. It's still not high, but there's a potential for it. So what I would do is a little bit of research more on your own. And if it seems like the best choice for you, then it very well may be the best choice. So thank you, Magali, for writing in. Greg's up next. Greg says, "Hi, Dr. Ball. Apologies for the long post. I'm desperate and in tears writing this, and I pray I can get your help. I have a 5-year-old daughter that has been having headaches, anxiety, and sleep problems for 2 years. We recently did an organic acid, food, and mycotox test. Results shows she's allergic to eggs and cashews, low in vitamin C. All other gut function and markers normal. The myco test was off the charts for aspergillus and ochratoxin A. Gliotoxin levels were in the red. Results show other elevated levels." I want to make sure that I get in this whole question and give you the results that you need. So show this to the pediatric doctor. She doesn't claim to be an expert on mold with kids. She gave us a protocol of biocidin, et cetera, et cetera. I found several of your podcasts on mold, and from the search, the feature listed all of them, which were super helpful. My question is, can I also use the same mold protocol for my daughter? How do we find the source of the exposure? What inspection companies do you recommend? And should I be looking for a certain certification? Could food be part of the mold exposure or just damaged buildings and cars? If this happened to one of your doctors, can you give me step-by-step what you would do? I'm overwhelmed and my heart is breaking that this happened to my little girl. Apologies for the long question. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your help. All right. Well, how could I not help, right? How could I not try to do my best to help? And it looks like, was it the same one done with the next question with Cassidy? Yes. It looks like your wife wrote in with the same exact question. So, but I'm happy to answer this for both of you. Okay. So let's answer the question. Both of my girls got exposed to mold. So I know exactly what you're going through. And I am using the same exact protocol. I'll be coming out with a children's mold protocol, but keep in mind, I do my research first. I take my job very, very seriously, and I want to make sure that it works. I want to make sure that you get everything you need. It's a different dosage, but I'm using the adult protocol with my 2 girls. Everyone in my family got exposed to mold through a leak. We live in a building with condos, and above us, there was a very bad leak. It got into the walls. We didn't even know it, behind our sink and dishwasher, and it got into the ceiling above our bathroom. To make a long story short, we were all exposed to mold. So the mold protocol that my daughters are actually currently on is the adult-based protocol. However, they can't use the GI balanced capsules. They simply can't swallow capsules that are that large. My daughters are young, and so it's not going to work for them. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get this product to market, but there's no way that this company right now can supply hundreds of bottles that we would need for our community. So we're working on that, right? So it's a product that is not as strong as citricidal, but it's very powerful, and it is made from citrus-based oil, and we're using that, which has been scientifically proven to be very effective against mold. So that's what I'm doing right now. More to come. What I would say is if you just need that place to get started, now I know you wrote in on June 24th, is I'd be doing the basically all of the foundation of the adult-based protocol. And I would be doing that along with a substitute for the GI balance, which could simply be oregano oil drops right now if you want, or some type of citrus oil-based drops. And you're going to be doing great. Make sure their vitamin C is high on a daily basis, that they're getting all of their nutrients through that, maybe the a half a scoop of the daily nutritional support. Make sure they're getting their omega-3s in, they're getting plenty of sleep, that they're staying active to move that body. And what else can I recommend for you? Yes, now watch your exposure, okay? Ours was environmental. Yours could be food, moldy oats. Anything that's packaged in a bag that could sit in a warehouse for a long time could build up mold. Be careful of that, okay? That's an important thing. Really, really watch that. Check your home. Just look up mold remediation, okay? A company will come out for free and test your house. And they'll do it for free because if they find something, they want you to hire them to then remove the mold. Okay, so we want to do that, right? We want to check air quality. You can also buy mold plates. Just go to stevencabral.com/podcast and just type in mold plate. I want to make sure that this is going to work for you. So let me go check it myself. It's a simple plate that you can place in all the areas of your house where you suspect mold. Mold plate. Let's see if this comes up. I'll get you the exact podcast. Okay, episode 1048 and episode 1022. 1028 shows the mold collection plates. Okay, hopefully that helps. Thank you for writing in, Greg, and we will definitely make sure we work on our child-based mold protocol, but you're already on the right path. You're using the biocidin, get the liposomal, you get the vitamin C, make sure you get some oregano oil, and you get those things in there, and that you're also ramping up phase 1, phase 2 detox just a little bit with those FM detox capsules. Again, my daughters are getting just about a quarter to a half of the dose of that. So more to come on that. I can't give it all away because I need to develop it for you. And then when I do, for sure, it will be announced on a Friday Review podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into another Cabral House Call. I appreciate you. I know I went a little long today, but I want to get all of these questions answered to the best of my ability. Thanks so much. As always, if this was helpful, please do feel free to pass it along to anyone else you believe it could serve. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.